Warning.
Watch very closely now. 3, 2, 1. Bzow! Check that out.
The following podcast features terrible jokes.
You know you can use Hot Wheels cars when you need to make a saving throw? Every car is die-cast.
Usually about board games.
We want the fun. Gotta have that fun.
Must insist that no one attempt to recreate any joke performed on this podcast.
We had less technical issues than $1 million company.
All right!
This is Boards and Swords.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Boards and Swords. This is a podcast featuring bad jokes, good folks, and some tabletop games. Who am I? I'm nobody important. I'm just Chris Renshaw, and here with me, as always, is my partner in crime, Mr. Philip Herbig.
What's going on, everybody?
And you may notice...
We want to say welcome to... Hang on, let me get the camera. Welcome to our guest. Wrong direction. There we go, that way. Hey.
Hold on. Wait, is there a cricket? You got a cricket sound on that?
There is a cricket.
Yeah, there you go. So I got really excited. All right, last week when I looked on when I was trying to pull up the document at the end of the show, and I was like, oh, who's coming on next? And it was like Steam. I remembered Steamforged Games, and I was like, oh, we just had a news story in that show talking about how they got all the stuff from Privateer Press. I was like, and when I had been emailing them, I had emailed their media person and like, oh, who's coming on the show? Because like when I talk with other people, it's not always the media person themselves that comes on the show. They're just the coordinator. You know, like, I'm going to go get you this designer and schedule them with you. So it's like, oh, is it going to be you or is it going to be someone else? And they're like, I can't tell you that now because it's for something unannounced. And so I was like, are we going to be like, we're not exactly like, it's not like a scoop because like the news is already broken, but like,
Gotcha.
Like riding the hype wave, maybe like at the forefront of the hype wave, as I kind of got excited of like, oh, this just got announced, and then we're going to have somebody on the show like like 2 weeks later, like that's awesome. And then like so more behind the scenes for people, every Monday before the podcast, so our off Mondays, I always email the person that's going to be on the show and say, hey, are we still good? And then, by the way, here's all the technical mumbo jumbo as far as like, here's how you get into the Discord. Here's where you do all this stuff. And this is what the way the show's going to go. Do you have any questions? Is there anything specific you want us to talk about? Like, especially if it's like a media person or you know, someone that's like, you know, when we have like Patrick and, you know, Keith from these are like CEOs of companies, and it's like,
yeah,
we can talk about everything you do, but is there like a new release that you really want to kind of like harp in on, sort of thing? And then nothing. I didn't get anything back from Steamforge, which was okay in the beginning because for a second I thought we were gonna have to delay this episode. Because I thought I was going to still be in New Jersey for work, but then it ended up coming back. And I was like, oh, yeah, that thing I emailed you about, don't worry about it. We're still on for next Monday, right? And then, Philip, crickets. So, anyways, it's just Philip and I. You know, it's like a year ago. It was like a year ago the last time we did something similar to this. Which, by the way, did you note, if you look at the intro, one of the clips says September 2015 in the intro, and like next year it will have been 10 years since that clip. It's the clip of me and you when we were recording in the tiny sub room in the basement.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. I remember those days. Those days. Y'all, Chris has been putting up with my shit for at least that long.
Yeah. Well, I could say that the same. You've been putting Philip has not been responding to my messages for a long time.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Exactly. But let's get things started with some news.
News!
That was super loud. Holy shit.
How was that loud?
No, I guess because I had everything turned up. It also turned that up.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm done. done with everything. We need a corporate sponsor. We need a real studio.
Yeah.
With we need the newsroom. That's what we need.
Yeah. Well, no, we just need somebody else managing levels, so I'm not talking and fiddling with everything.
That'll
But
work too.
anyways, I asked a bartender what the first alcohol kind of ever invented was. Like I was thinking maybe it was some sort of mead or something. They just shrugged and said origin. So, this past weekend was the Origins Game Fair, and I know also since the last time we podcast the Spiel des Jahres awards were announced, but I looked at the Spiel des Jahres and I didn't I recognized like one of them, and it just was kind of like blah. But then I looked at the Origins awards that were announced, and it actually seemed more worth talking about, so I did. So I was like, okay, we'll do that instead. First up is Best Cooperative Board Game, which was Sky Team. This was actually also on the only game I recognized on the Spiel list, which that game's really cool. I saw it at Gen Con last year, but it was one of those. You remember when we went to Ashes and all the demos were like packed with people, and then like people around the tables like waiting to play? It was like that for Sky Team, because it's a real-time dice game kind of thing where, or at least if I remember right, it's you and one other player are co-pilots, and you're trying to like land this plane, but you have guards, so you can't see, like you have to like I think you roll dice and then like allocate them to different things. Like I'm gonna put this many in flaps and this many in speed or whatever. And then the other person has like half of the other stuff, like the landing gear or other things. And then you have to like reveal and then kind of like without talking, kind of work together to like land the plane, sort of thing.
All right.
It looked really cool. Best thematic board game is something you've actually played. Freelancers, a Crossroads game.
Oh yes, that's a very good game.
I missed Wandering Towers, best gateway game. Leaf, best light strategy. A lot of these I haven't heard of. Best heavy strategy is Dune Imperium Uprising. That's not surprising. Dune Imperium got a lot of fanfare, and Uprising, I'm assuming, is an expansion for it.
Yeah.
Smug Owls, best party social. Legacy of You, best solo game. Best fixed collectible game is the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth Commander decks.
Okay.
Yep. Randomize
are the one is the
is the boosters. What was that?
I was gonna say, and then the next one is the boosters.
But I mean that makes sense. Those were pretty awesome. That was a pretty awesome, a very unique set. I know a lot of people didn't, and there were hardcore fans that didn't like it, but there are also some pretty cool mechanics in there. Best miniatures game, Star Wars Shatterpoint, which we're going to talk about a little bit, still in the news, sort of. Puzzle game, Threads of Fate. Heckna box set, best role-playing game adventure. Best role-playing game core product, Die, the role-playing game. Starter product, Dreams and Machines starter set. Look, Modiphius coming out with a bunch of different stuff. Modiphius has been rocking it pretty hard recently. Role-playing game supplement, Dune Power and Pawns from Modiphius. Dice-related accessory, Glyphic Blind Dice Bags, Series 3.5. Frame-a-Jigs, best game accessory. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize there was this many. Oh, fan favorite, Distilled. I've played that. I actually played that. That's like, I think that's over a year old. I played that at or maybe I played it last year at what's it called? PAX Unplugged.
Okay.
Come to think of it, I think I played that back in 2022. So that game's like almost it's like a year and a half, 2 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff there. This just came out. This just happened. And definitely some cool stuff worth checking out. It's amazing that like Sky Team's still getting raves, and it's been like out for over a year. But I guess we are kind of in that award season sort of thing. Like the Dice Tower Awards will be out soon too. All right, moving on. Up next, this story will have you saying TCG. I'm really shocked. So apparently, adults be buying some toys. So this thing, adults now largest segment for toys. Adults ages 18 and up became the largest market segment for toys, which includes the games and puzzles super category for the first time in Q1, surpassing the preschool segment. Adult purchases amounted to $1.5 billion in Q1 of this year. Just Q1 this year, $1.5 billion in toys. Not just games, but just toys. Over the past year, 43% of adults have purchased a toy for themselves, citing socialization, enjoyment, and collecting as the top motivations. Philip, have you bought a toy for yourself?
I have bought many toys.
The adult toys
Adult
segment.
toy segment, yeah.
4 TCG products were among the top 10 new items sold in track stores for the spring season. And I'm pretty sure this is like I'm pretty sure this is probably from like a commercial retailer thing. So this is probably looking at big box stores. This is probably not from a, this podcast brought to you in a plain round wrapper. This is probably not looking at like your friendly local game store, but this is probably looking at like Target, Walmart, GameStop, those kind of things. Even Best Buy potentially. You know, but 4 TCG products: Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Palladian, Fates Collection 10 at number 4. Which those 10s, they always those things must sell well because they always come out with the new ones. Those are the ones that they're kind of like hexagon shaped, like an extended hexagon, and they like have like a Pokemon card in the front. At least I think that's what I'm thinking of. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Temporal Forces Elite Trainer Box, Iron Leaves. That's a long name. And then Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Temporal Forces Sleeve Booster Packs Assortment. And then Lorcana kicking it in at number 10, Disney Lorcana Into the Inklands Booster Pack.
Yep.
Toy sales were down overall 1% in the spring, with toy sales for spring remain up 38% versus sales in 2029. So, you know, we're still riding kind of like the COVID wave of increased sales for games, puzzles, and toys. Kind of amazing to see even in the spring, Lorcana still doing well. I fully expected. Right. I think a lot of people did that by the Gen Con this year, it would be there would be a lot of it just in the card holla section of people like setting up cards and card holla of Lorcana cards because everybody just like getting rid of their stuff.
100%.
So, interesting. So I have a problem where I have to buy everything Halo. It's kind of my chief concern right now. So we got the Halo minis game that's going to be like soft releasing at Gen Con. Upper Deck is now announcing they're releasing Halo Mission Command, a new pocket game, which will hit retail on September 30th. Gen Con. If it's releasing September 30th, that means they'll have it at Gen Con most likely. I imagine Upper Deck usually although that'll be kind of cool because Upper Deck usually has like a very, very like they go all out for their booths. Like they go very thematic, and like have usually like entryways and stuff into the demo area and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So in this lightweight card game, players will try to collect weapons, vehicles, and locations from the Halo franchise to complete missions. To move their mission along, they will destroy, steal, and swap the utilities in play and use Master Chief's powers. Players can also use the cards to hinder their opponent's progress, thereby sabotaging their missions. Philip, are you on board yet?
I'm here, man.
The player that hops around the galaxy and completes all their missions as quickly as possible wins. 2 to 5 players, plays in 15 to 45 minutes for $20. And yes, Rusty Beetle, I will be at Gen Con. I'm excited, and not because I actually have a press pass this year.
This seems like, sir, permission to leave the station. Give the Covenant back their ball.
Give your Covenant back their ball. Have you seen that the video where they're like, what's the most iconic line that you had to film or record for Master Chief? And he just gets into the thing. He's like, I need a weapon.
Yeah.
And just the crowd goes nuts.
Yeah.
But
That was one of the best lines.
excuse me, I need a weapon. There we go.
Yeah.
There's my.
Oh,
I gotta
So
get it.
he had to switch from Batman to Master Chief.
I gotta get that little gravelly at the back.
I do not throw cancer.
I will try this. I will, and if the line's too big, I will probably just buy it instead of for 20
Yeah,
for
just
20
like-
bucks. Halo is one of those properties that I would probably buy it without trying it for 20 bucks.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So, moving on. This next story is for you if you have it D&D 5e enough of that game. So, Wizards of the Coast announced the lineup. This is your D&D 2024 releases officially. So, like, we already knew we knew there was a player's handbook, but now we have the actual. This is what the books look like. This is the dates they're coming out. So September 17th, you get the player's handbook, and you also get the 2024 character sheets. It's just usually like a little. You rip a sheet off, and then you can fill it out in your character sheets. It's like a pad. That's the word I was going for. It's a pad of character sheets. November 12th, you get the DMG. And then, even though this says 2024 Monster Manual, it's February 5th, 2025. You get the Monster Manual.
Okay.
So, I brought this up though. You got to see the images on these though. Like, there's a couple. The gallery here is a little mixed up, but like,
Is a collector's edition?
so the way they've been doing them is they have the alternate art ones.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Like they have if you go buy it in one of our partnered stores, you get the alternate art. That's what these are. I think unless they they decided to like upsell them, they usually are around the same price.
Okay.
But like, here's your Dungeons Master's guide. But even like the artwork on these is so good.
It is. I kind of like the plain DMG better than the fancy DMG.
Probably. But like, look at this monster manual though. Like I like
That is slick.
Yeah, like
Oh,
I like there's a kind of cartoony look to this Mind Flayer here that it's like it gives me like web comic vibes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what I mean by that, but it just looks really dope. But even the regular versions are super cool.
Oh yeah.
Like the monster manual, I don't know why this version is the only one they took at like an angle. But yeah, you get this like huge beholder, like in the people fight. But I mean, like, I don't know why we need to see the back.
Yeah, the Monster Man, that is really weird like that. I mean, there's some cool artwork on the back of them too. Like,
Yeah. Like, yeah, the regular DMG does look. That's I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be Vecna.
Okay. Sitting at the top there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Adepticon 2025 hotel blocks open up June 26th. I heard something about that. Yeah, and then Milwaukee. All right, let me keep scrolling here. I'm trying to get to the. Yeah, there's like that player's handbook looks so cool. However, I really think there's something about this player's handbook looks so cool.
With the
With the scrolling, the dragon kind of scrolling about. It almost kind of forms the and like you see. You know, you get this kind of. They always had this like draconic little and, but this almost looks like that.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, it's like also like your regular book is just so cool and vibrant. So I don't know. These are all cool. It's gonna be hard to pick. If you have the option, it's gonna be hard to pick. And I mean, people say like, you know, I don't like playing D&D anymore because I mean, there's plenty of reasons to not want to play D&D.
There's plenty of reasons not to
But
play.
it's kind of hard to like pull itself away when they're coming out with like pretty bitchin' artwork like this. And you know, it's
Yeah.
like not AI artwork either. Like, oh, the one horn guy is Vinger, not Vecna. Okay. Okay.
Is that the guy from the cartoon?
I wouldn't know.
That is the guy from the cartoon with the one horn? Yeah.
Oh, that guy. Okay. I'm caught up now. Voiced by Peter Cullen in the 80s cartoon. I did not realize that was Peter Cullen. So, hold on, my camera went dead.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
And we're back.
Yeah. I set up a thing so it wouldn't do that, and I forgot I have to click the shutter to like, it's got this like auto stick thing,
Ah.
and I forgot to like stick it first. So, anyways.
When the problem comes along, you must deal.
Anyways, last story. If I've officially stopped playing this Star Wars minigame, would it be my X-Wing? So everyone kind of saw this coming. It wasn't really a big surprise if you were paying attention to the community, because they recently, before this announcement came out, like for the past month or so, had been like clearancing out like everything. Like stuff was just like price to move kind of stuff. Yeah, I have not seen the old D&D cartoon.
For the record, Hoser 40K, I also have not seen the old D&D cartoon.
I've seen it like for sale.
I think we saw a like dubbed over video of one of the episodes.
Oh, yes, yes.
And it was very adult themed.
Yes.
We did know that.
The party
we did know that the party made a cameo.
Yes, we did know about that. We should, maybe as a patron thing, we'll do like a watch party of like the D&D cartoon.
Oh, D&D cartoon. Hey, I'm down with that.
At least like the first episode or something. So Atomic Mass ends development of 2 Star Wars miniature games, X-Wing and Armada, which Armada everyone had written off years ago because they just stopped coming out with like content for it.
Yeah.
Atomic Mass Games announced they will officially end the development of Star Wars X-Wing and Star Wars Armada lines. The decision to end development on these lines was made because of rising production costs, manufacturing, and pandemic-related challenges. These issues made producing quality pre-painted miniatures difficult for AMG. The announcement comes as a little surprise, as AMG had already all but jettisoned Armada in 2021, and X-Wing was seeing fewer and fewer new releases yearly. The Atomic Mass will now, in likelihood, turn its attention to the other Star Wars miniature lines, Shatterpoint and Legion. They recently revealed the Not Accepting Surrender squad pack for Shatterpoint Legion. I don't know how to watch. Haha, good one, Rusted Beetle. So, all right, I have thoughts on this. So let's rewind a bit.
All right.
We're gonna go up here. Let's rewind a little bit. Fantasy Flight Games makes all these games, you know, X-Wing, Armada, Legion, everything.
Yeah.
All right. Atomic Mass Games, their only game was, by the way, Rusted Beetle, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to your point. Atomic Mass Games, their only game was Marvel Crisis Protocol. That was the game they made. They built it from the ground up. It was their property. That was like this is our first game as a studio sort of thing. Asmodee swoops in. This is when like they went hack slash to like all the FFG parts, like killed all the RPGs and like shoved those to Edge Studios eventually. And there's still issues with that. Like you can't get reprints of all the Star Wars RPG books, because with it shifting to a different studio, you have like different licensing things that they have to like go back and rework all the licensing agreements to say like Edge Studios versus. And I don't know why it was easier with the for some reason it was harder with the PDFs or with the books than it was like AMG didn't have a problem printing X-Wing stuff. but that's weird. So then, like, yeah, all these games got shifted over to AMG. So now AMG, a game that only had one game, now is in charge of 4 games. You know, Marvel Crisis Protocol, X-Wing, Armada, and Legion. Now, at this point, Armada is already dead. Like, Armada was pretty much dead in the water, even when it was still at FFG, because there's just not that many. There's not that many capital ships in Star Wars, and also like it was not as big. Like Armada honestly should have been like a boxed game. Like here's everything Armada done. Like
I can see that.
you know, like sure, make it like a $200 like special deluxe edition. Do it as like a pre-order maybe, like on your website. Limited edition stuff, gone. So, and then you got X-Wing, which had just switched to a second edition in 2019. AMG. So I'm scatterbraining here. My thought is AMG wanted nothing to do with any of these Star Wars games. My opinion is from the get-go, AMG wanted nothing to do with these games, and they just basically got them dumped on them. Now, granted, I have nothing to go off of these opinions. I'm only basing this off of what we've seen from the company. Because, so X-Wing already had a good second edition, which people liked. People were like, yeah, first edition started getting bloated, and, you know, it was getting really hard to compete because you had to have specific things. And there was problems with first edition. By the time that second edition came out, it was, you know, to keep it competitive, stuff had to change, and it was not in the game did not support the changes that needed to be made. So they made a new second edition that gave them, like, okay, now we can tweak things. We're going to give ourselves the tools. We're not going to put like the points on cards, you know, so that if we need to adjust things, we can adjust them, you know, and it doesn't cancel out the cards or whatever. So a lot of people really like second edition. AMG, when they get a hold of the game, they come out with, I don't think they called it 2.5, but the community called it 2.5 rule set that completely tanked the game, like ruined the game. Like, first of all, COVID ruined X-Wing just because it was already a small minis game.
Yeah.
It was already a small minis game, and then when it was not getting the weekly support from your local games place, it was already on the decline, and it needed a jolt to kind of like revitalize it. And AMG's like 2.5, and everyone's like, these rules are terrible. But AMG's like, no, these rules are great. You're just playing the game wrong.
Right.
And everyone was like, no. Like they made it so like there was no point to taking. I don't know. I kind of stopped playing a lot of X-Wing at this point. So, but like they stopped making it so you could take like Phil your horde list, your swarm. There was like no reason to take unnamed pilots in this 2.5. Like, there was no reason to take. It was like if you only took, like I think they increased the point cost or whatever of the unnamed pilots to the point where it's like, well, for that point cost, I might as well get the guys with the abilities.
Yeah,
on.
Might as well get the. It was either an 8-man team of unnamed or a 6-man team of named. Yeah.
But so there was that, and then like, so they did all that. X-Wing's already going down, and it just like plummets. Like, it's just, and then you're not seeing any releases, you're not seeing any news about it, etc., etc. Then AMG kind of says, we're gonna do a Star Wars game, Shatterpoint, which I think has some bases in Marvel Crisis Protocol, but it's not exactly the same system, but it's the same style game. So it's like, oh, that's where you've been putting your focus. So, and apparently Shatterpoint's amazing. Like, I've heard people that love Shatterpoint. They think it's a great game. But if there's any Legion fans out there, I would not be buying any new Legion stuff because I feel like Legion is on death watch at this point. Like Legion still sells really well, which is why it's still being supported. But I feel like the minute that Legion dips in popularity, it's getting taken out back and shot. Like,
I can
like
definitely see that.
as long as they can make money on Legion, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like we're going to put just enough effort into Legion so that people will still buy it. And then when that is not enough, then we're just going to get rid of it. And we're going to focus on our two games that we wanted to do this whole time, Crisis Protocol and Shatterpoint. Because those two games keep getting stuff like every few months, new things coming out. Like there are tons of heroes and stuff coming out for Crisis Protocol. You can get just about anybody in the Marvel Universe for it. So, yeah, at a different scale than Legion. Like, the games are unique enough that you can play both and still have a great time. Like, Shatterpoint's more of a skirmish game where it's like, here's 6 figures, go. Whereas Legion is more of your army kind of 40K, like, big army-style game. So, like, they both have a place, and they could both be supported, but I don't think they will. See, yeah, Rusted Beetle says their local game stores already clearancing them out. That's if I was a store, I would too. Unless you've got people consistently buying Legion like hand over fist, I wouldn't stock it. And I heard some people. There was another podcast I listened to, and they were like, "Why is Shatterpoint not as big as it should be? Like this game is amazing." And I honestly think it's people being butthurt about X-Wing. They're like, X-Wing had a really, like, all the diehard, like, anyone who really loved Star Wars and minis games was playing X-Wing and was playing Legion. And those two games got, like, no support at all from AMG. And I feel like it, like, tainted the fans against AMG. And to where, like, they're like, now we've got this game we want to support. And they're like, yeah, but why do we want to support that game when you wouldn't support the game that we really liked?
Right.
So, I have not tried Crisis Protocol. I want to, though. I do want to. I would not play it in the beginning because I thought the graphic design on the cards was crap. So when they originally announced the game, the graphic design for like the army cards, it had a very like 90s comic vibe to it that I just did not like, and I thought it was bad. And so I was like, I'm not interested. Plus, at the same time, I was all in on Marvel Champions for like my Marvel fix for the card game. So
Marvel Champions, what?
Yeah, exactly. But now they've come out with like a revised core set where they redid the graphic design, and I'm like, okay, I could be tempted to try it out. Plus, the terrain they have is like super cool. Like they have the Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum or whatever, and it's like
cool.
This tall, and it's just like a huge building that you can do. Like, you know, this is I know Crisis Protocol is one of those games where like the Hulk can pick up a piece of terrain and throw it at people.
Nice.
Yeah, I do feel kind of bad for AMG. These business decisions were made above them, and I don't think they wanted any of them. That's what I'm saying. Like, I get the feeling AMG just was like, we don't want this, so we're just not going to pay attention to it. And then it died, and I'm like, man, this game's not doing so well. I guess we're just going to have to kill it. And they're like, production costs and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, there are other people making pre-painted minis that are doing just fine. Like, Did you play Robo Rally? Yes, we played it on stream.
Did we?
Yeah, we played it at High Tide before it closed when it was in that little. We played it in the glass end area in the corner.
Yep, I'm there.
Yeah, like that was all pre-painted mini. Those were gorgeous pre-painted minis. Like for $40, $50, $60 game, like those were some nice quality pre-painted minis. So like you can do it, you just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like you got a little bonus. I'm gonna rant later on, but you got kind of a bonus rant there. All right, and that's the that's it we got for the news. All I'll say
That's
for
the way the news goes.
we got our Patreon, patreon.com/boards and swords. I know it's been like a rough couple. I know listening to some of the people we've had patrons like back and then fall off and other things because times are kind of tough for a lot of people. We get it. That's why, like, you know what? At $1, you get just about everything. Like you get access to like special channels and everything. You don't get like physical things like the dice kind of stuff and there's like the T-shirt level or whatever. But like that's
Yeah.
not that's honestly more work on us because then I have to actually make dice and send them out. But like the people that's like $1, if we had like the same amount of people, but it was just like 50 people all at $1 instead of maybe like a cup, I would prefer that.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking like, what do I get? The answer is just more. If you're the kind of person that watches this show and you're like, I like this show, I want more, then you just need to go $1 a month. That's less than the price of a soda. Like aluminum cans are $1 now. So, and then you get the bonus bits episodes. If you liked what we did last week, that's you get that every other week. So like the way you stagger is you get a Boards and Swords episode every week, pretty much. So, and I think I don't know. We may continue doing the live. We may continue doing the bonus bits, streaming them live. I don't know.
Marvel Champions. What?
It's always kind of fun doing that and getting kind of like the live commentary on the bonus bit stuff. So we may keep trying that, and then I will just like clip them I'll just take the video and clip it off so that you don't get it, for free. But maybe every now and then I'll have to throw like a free episode out just to remind people. Yeah, X-Wing was selling like hotcakes. Should have been a great moneymaker. But yeah. So yeah, boardsandswords.com/Patreon, patreon.com/boardsandswords. So Philip, I was about to ask you what have you been up to, but we're going to get into that more probably in bonus bits. But so I had to kind of like scramble, because my first inclination, whenever we don't have like a guest like has to reschedule or something, is like, oh, we'll just cancel the show because that was the content of the show. We don't have the content, so we don't have the show. But
Exactly.
Luckily enough, as I was driving back from New Jersey this weekend, I stopped at Third Eye Games and Hobbies up in Annapolis, and I was super sad because they were having a huge free RPG day sale, which was this Saturday, the 22nd, was free RPG day, and they're having a huge sale, and I was so sad that I was like, there was a whole bunch of different stores doing different events, and I was working one of those really long days, was not going to be able to get anywhere. But I was like, but if it's anything like Free Comic Book Day, a lot of times the stores will have leftover product. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can go get some stuff. I'm also used to like our game store would only give you like so if you've never heard of Free RPG Day, there's this thing called Free Comic Book Day, and I feel like it's based on that, where companies will make special Free Comic Book Day books and then give them to the stores for free, or not give them for free. Like stores have to buy them, I think. But the idea is like you have to give these out for free to kind of get people, and it's a huge marketing thing to get people into comics. Like, hey, come get some free comics, that sort of thing. And Free RPG Day was like, people can come in. Companies would make special adventures and like one-off things, like quick start guides is always very popular. And then usually stores will run like RPG events at the store during Free RPG Day to kind of get people into some of those games. So as I was going there, and normally for Free RPG Day, I only get like one of the things because our store would be like everybody gets just one. So you just look, and I ended up picking something that I'm already familiar with. Like I wouldn't you risk it on something random because I don't know if I'm gonna like it.
Right.
I'm not gonna get like the random indie game. I'm gonna get like, oh, that's a new expansion for Pathfinder or Dungeon Crawl Classics. One of the things here. I had played the game and I was like, that's really cool. I'm gonna grab this so I have it. So it's one less module I have to buy to run it. Well, I go to Third Eye, and they just have like the table splayed out with all the stuff like other stores do. And I went and asked them. I was like, "Is there any stipulations on?" They're like, "No, go take what you want." I'm like, "Heck yeah!" like, it was this reminded me of my free free comic book days.
Oh yeah,
Stacks. So
those were the
like,
days, man.
yeah, like I got all sorts of stuff. So what I figured is like, I'm just gonna kind of like go through. There we go. I'm just gonna kind of like go through and show off some of the stuff that was on there. And if you're listening to this and you have a store nearby, chances are your store probably still has some of this stuff. Granted, this is not. I'm not going to say this is everything because there's chances are that there could have been like a stack of something that went super fast and was not. This is one of everything that was left over.
Oh, there you go.
You know, so there could have been something else that wasn't. But first up, this is something I actually did get last year because I thought it was kind of neat. But it is a free RPG Day indie anthology. It's called Level 1. So, like, I guess it's the people behind, either the people behind it or somebody that's just, like, jumping on to free RPG Day. They just take a bunch of, games, like, small games that are, like, these are, like, 1 to 2 page games in here. And they just bind them up in a book and, like, here's a new set of games for you to try out. So I always like playing the odds. My store had none of that stuff at all. That is sad. But like, there's got to be another store that had them. We're back for a 5th year with Command Line, a brand new download of fresh indie RPGs free RPG Day. This year's designers take us to the internet, the future, and other worlds. We have abandoned Discord servers, viruses, robots, and even golems. We have hacking simulations and a simulation of hacking. You can become a god in outer space, pet, or as predicted, a hacker. Inside this volume, we'll find LARPs, solo games, experiments, pastiches, and even some trad roll-a-die kill-a-monster game. So strap on your keyboard and get ready to jack into the net, chummer. We're so cyberpumped this year that we even had an ad for Shadowrun. Welcome to Level 1. So this is basically like I guess they had a theme. And they're like, "Hey, people make games for this theme." Like they've already got like a promo for next year's free RPG Day. It's Volume 6, 2025. How the West Was Lost is the theme for next year. So, 9th Level Games is the people behind this. So I was just gonna kind of see. Is there not a table of contents or anything? That doesn't look like it.
It's in the middle of the book.
Probably. I was curious. Like, so that.
Do you know what that's from, though?
What?
In elementary school, did you ever hear or read a book called The Stinky Cheese Man?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. The sky is falling, the sky, and then the table of contents pops up in the middle of the damn book.
I do remember that. I do remember some of that. Oh my gosh! So I was trying to find this one. Because I said that I saw Discord servers, so I flipped to.
Okay.
I was trying to find it. That's why I was looking at the table of contents, and I found it. I think it's a solo game. The player will set up a Discord server in which they are the only member. So it loosely engages with themes of loneliness, regret, and lost emotional connections. So the player creates one text channel, one audio channel. If they're not generated automatically when creating the server, keep the server default server name or use a generic placeholder server name until prompted to alter it later. Immersion may be improved by setting Discord to do not disturb or hiding notifications. The situation, the player is the moderator of a Discord server. The server is petered out into inactivity with only a list of perpetually offline account statuses. Player is the only member online. It is ambiguously late at night, and the player opens their server and takes stock of its stagnant text channel and silent voice channel. Treat it in while it remains while it remains empty in reality, treat it in fiction as it contains a long backlog of old messages. Similarly, treat the member sidebar as if it's full of accounts. So then you like create a like, oh, how long has this been inactive? What was the server made for? Like, kind of imagining the things for it, and then it gives you a bunch of like stuff to do about it to kind of like go. I'm like, that's really oddly specific, but kind of deep at the same time.
Yeah.
So, talking about like internet communities that die out. So, anyways, yeah, level 1. A lot of this, by the way, a lot of times these companies. So, if you're hearing this and like Rusty Beetle said, you know, his store had none of this stuff. A lot of times these companies will have PDFs of their free RPG stuff. And you usually have to get it. Like I try to get old free RPG stuff from Dungeon Crawl Classics online, and it's all like $5 now. So like, I think if you get it during the weekend, it's probably for free. But like after that, you know. So there you go. That's the free RPG Day anthology. I'm gonna skip through here. This is super cool. This is something I really. I saw them doing some of this, and I'm really glad they're leaning into this.
Okay.
It is the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game, X-Men free expansion preview, but it's a comic book.
Oh.
Like, they literally like their adventure is a comic book,
Nice.
and I think this is like the best way to do this game. You know, like I mean, it's an advertisement for an actual rule book. You know, you can see it in the back here. There's like your standard core rule book and stuff. But like if they were just to make these adventures, I think there was a Deadpool one that they released, and it was in that same sort of vein, like in like a comic book format. But like, you know, you open it up and it gets into, you know, here's the rules, so this is like what you need to play. And you open it up, it's not a comic book per se. It is an adventure, but it's set up, it's printed as if it were a comic book. And it's got like
Okay.
a lot of comic booky art. But it's, you know, it's like, you know, just like one of these other, let me grab one of the ones at the bottom here, like one of these other, you know, adventure things on here. It's just like that, but it's a comic book, and I think this is great. Especially if, like, making like this makes it cheaper to where, you know, like paper and quality and that sort of thing. Like, if it was, you know, $3-4.99 for an adventure, I would probably just be buying these up just to have them because they're really cool.
Absolutely.
I haven't looked at the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game, but that's just because when it came out, I was kind of on my dip of RPGs. So, but yeah. Oh, that's right. I have a. I think the game. I think if I remember right, it's the 6D6 system or the 616 system because like
Okay.
Marvel 616.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah. So you got the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. This was weird. I didn't even know this was a game. This was like a piece. It was just like a random. It looked like a bunch of promos that was sitting on there. But because it looks like an ad. It's like Return to Dark Tower. We played the game Return to Dark Tower. That was the one Chris had that had the big tower in the middle and stuff would fall out.
That thing's amazing.
But this is also made by Ninth Level Games, same people that did that combination. But it's a pad that you can rip off, and it apparently is an adventure for this Return to Dark Tower mazes. I know mazes is a role playing system, so this must be just like a themed version of it. But like, it's like a welcome to fantasy role playing, and like here's how to play, and then you just kind of flip through this, and it's just a little cheap pad of paper of like here's how you play the game. I think that's really cool. And like, oh look, here's a map of like a canyon. I think this is designed so that you can play it solo. I'm getting the opinion that this is kind of like a solo walkthrough of like, here we're gonna teach you how to play our game.
That's a neat way to package that.
Yeah. Like I haven't delved into this enough to know that, but that's kind of the impression I'm getting here. Okay, so it looks like you can play this with other people, but it does the way it's doing this. It is Is a no prep quick play version of a fantasy role playing game playable with either Mazes or Return to Dark Tower. And then it gives you like here's all the like how to play this thing. So that's really cool. And then like as you beat a scenario, you like rip that page off and so what have we got here? Sink Treasures of Deep Grotto. Looks like somebody needs to make a pad of Mad Lib's art D&D characters to play one-shots with. Okay. Because you said it, I now have to pull this up because I had something I was going to talk about it more in the bonus bits. But now I have to pull it up. So remember we were playing Dungeon Crawl Classics and we went through the whole setup of like making all the RPG characters?
Yep.
And it's just like dice rolls. You just randomize and roll, blah, blah, blah. Well, I found this while I went to games and stuff. So I went to game stores on the way up and on the way down.
Okay, imagine that.
Imagine that. So I found this at, it is just a pad of scratch-off Dungeon Crawl Classics character sheets.
Oh.
So it's already randomized all the stats, and it's just a pad. And then you just go through and scratch off all the numbers to see like what your occupation and stuff is. And when that character dies, you just rip it off and throw it away.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, now I've got me thinking like a Mad Libs D&D character pad could totally be something that we put together.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back to. I'm gonna put back to. Let's get both of us on here. All right, so I'm judging by the fact this has got a 5e little logo at the top. This is something written for 5e. Sheets to the wind, needles to the skin. Explore the Caldereach Sea and grapple with Gathu's Dread Armada with Sink. 4 original subclasses: the Buccaneer Fighter, the Mistbreaker Ranger, the Spellskin Wizard, and the College of Tide Song Bard. Visit Sync RPG for pre-made character sheets and then take the fight to Captain Grimscar. So this, I guess this is a pirate-themed RPG that uses 5th edition rules. So apparently this is being crowdfunded, looks like. To follow the crowdfunding campaign for Sync, our collection of magical item tattoos. Oh, so you get tattoos that are magic items in this game.
Oh, nice.
In modular dungeons compatible with 5th edition, visit synkrpg.com or crimsonheraldgames.com. While a character earned the condition... Oh, no, that's something specific for this. Sync offers a unique mechanic known as Soul Link, an effect forcing players to manage their hit dice as well as their hit points as a resource representing their life force. Soul Link represents a sunken character's tether to the soul and enter the living world. While playing in the world of Sync, certain traps, monsters, and characters drain a character's pool of hit dice. It's up to characters to make choices that will protect this resource from obstacles. So like, you know, those hit dice that you use to like regain some of your health when you're like sitting down or like when you're taking a short rest. There are things that like ability effects that will like drain those away. So you no longer have them. And then it goes into it's really depth. This is almost in that it's also in that kind of comic book style novella kind of leaflet sort of thing.
I can see that, yeah.
But yeah, it's got the art. It's pretty cool. I'm not really interested in like pirates so much, but if I was, this seems pretty cool. The artwork looks really neat. It's kind of standard kind of piratey themed stuff. That Soul Link thing is kind of cool. I mean, there's a Cthulhu guy on like it's like a Cthulhu Buddha looking dude here.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. Game stores across America wouldn't be a bad road trip. I know, right? Don't forget to pack the Febreze. You just walk in and have like your... Have you seen those like belt... I've been seeing TikTok ads for them where like you clip it to your belt and like it blows the air up your shirt.
I haven't seen but that's here I'm rambling. They might still make them. There's like a belt belt clip fan bug repellent thing you can
Oh,
get.
yeah.
So it's probably like the same technology, just with a little tube to run it up your shirt.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the bug repellent would be more. I mean, like we just need like one of those fans that just sprays outwards for breeze. So like
Yes.
as you're walking through the store, you're making it better. You're combating the stink. It's not,
Create
and
a little shield of
yeah. In fact, it's closer to your bug repellent. That's where I was like when you said that. There's a couple. I've got a couple more. These are all kind of in that like comic book leaflet style. Humblewood. I'm pretty sure Heather's played this.
Okay.
Welcome to Humblewood, a magical campaign setting where animals and birds embark on thrilling adventures, face down dangerous foes, and make lasting friendships. Pick up a Humblewood campaign setting at Humblewood Tales Adventure Supplement at your local game store or online. Visit humblewood.com for more information, adventures, and free resources. So, I think this is okay. It does have that little 5e kind of a little 5e dice stamp in the corner. So this is another 5e, which I was pretty sure it was before. But long ago, a group of eldritch engineers called the Fizzars dug deep in the mountains of Stormcrag, searching for elementally charged crystals to power their work. The Fizzars' heyday is long past. Still, Fizzar technology lies buried across the continent of Wesden. Sometimes these strange devices still cause trouble. So it's got like all these, it's just an adventure. It's got like your dungeons and stuff in it.
nice.
Yeah, everything you need. Just a tiny little. The amount of because having done the little bit of graphic design work I have, I know that there's probably like a lot that goes into this of like how can we pack at it's like okay, we can only afford to make this size booklet. How do we pack it with like as much stuff that doesn't make it like too overwhelming? Like this is the back of this is almost pushing it. Like there's some tiny text on here.
Oh,
I'm trying to like get the glare of the light
Oh,
off.
I can.
Yeah, tiny text. Have to get the glasses. Cadence channeler. Ooh. It allows anyone to become a sorcerer by absorbing the natural magic of the world. It's like a little. It reminds me. It's like a little speaker that you attach to your chest. Kind of reminds me of. Do you remember the first X-Men First Class movie, where the guy had like
where they channeled his like weird
like
plasma rings.
Havoc, I think was his. It was Cyclops'
Havoc,
brother or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what that.
I wonder if in the lore if that stuff came from the same dimension that Cyclops' eye blast comes from.
Yes.
It did?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm no X-Men expert, but I'm pretty sure it did. So there's this. It's. I think this is Garbage and Glory, but it's really hard to read. Like the font is like they leaned in on the garbage, but like I I thought
Kind
that
of
was
reminds me of Joker Man font.
yeah, I thought that was Garage at first. So uncover some treasure for Free RPG Day 2024. Gather around to tell a story of raccoons going on adventures with this complete all ages game. The artwork reminds me of Garbage Pail Kids.
Okay.
So if you grew up in the 90s like I did, that's kind of that appeals to you. At least the cover. The cover kind of.
Sorry. Did you mean the late 1900s?
Yes, the late 1900s. The artwork on the inside looks a little bit different, a little bit more standard, but this looks like they. Ooh, I mean, I like the character sheet is very thematic as well.
Nice. Oh yeah.
It's really neat, and it's kind of like got everything you need to play in here. And then like this whole first half is like how to play, and then you have the actual adventure.
Okay.
So there's a complete game in here pretty much. All-age role-playing game of dumpster delving. Yeah, quick start rules for the +1 system. 6 ready-to-play raccoon adventurers, a full adventure set beyond the sewer gate. You all know the rumor that Muncie wasted Wasted Isp has the best trash. It's supposed to be guarded by ogres, though. You'll have to brave the depths in wet to find out the truth. All right, and then the last one of these, it's another one where they leaned way in on the font style, but I think that's Rolo.
I was gonna say maybe that's a J.
It could be like Rojo.
Rojo, yeah.
And then on the back, I think it says on guard. I think this is supposed to be on guard.
That's on guard, yeah.
By Terror Target Gemini something. Okay. So the RPG is called Terror Target Gemini. It's a tabletop role-playing game where you play runners, professional adventurers. The inside text is so much better.
Gotcha.
Like, couldn't you have just done this on the outside? And, oh, you were right. It is Rojo or Rojo.
It's Rojo. Okay,
It's
gotcha.
Rojo. So you were right there.
That well, like so that like paintbrush stroke style.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me. I think Cowboy Bebop.
I see
Getting
it.
a kind of Cowboy Bebop vibe off of that.
Yeah. You play runners, professional adventurers hired for dangerous tasks in the savage lands known as the Maju. That's another. It's another place where the font choice it's MA, and that could either be a T or a J or an S. It kind of all
Gotcha.
blurs together. U. Meanwhile, another player, the narrator describes the locations. Blah blah blah. It's a Terror Target Gemini is a hyper-violent and anachronistic Western, a colorful and wacky fantasy, and action-packed manga full of demonics, gunslingers, and martial art witches. I just want to know, are these like regular gunslingers? Or are we talking like freelancers gunslingers? That's going to be the question from now on. Whenever I hear gunslingers, I'm like,
that is going to be the question.
are we
all the
throwing
time.
bullets or are we throwing guns?
So I've got it open because I was actually editing my character for Star Wars.
Yeah.
On Friday, because I got to add the ship into my sheet so I can have it on my tablet. Is there a gunslinger option?
Oh, are you talking about in Star Wars?
Yeah.
I think there is.
Let me scroll. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Gunslinger, yes. Smuggler.
The microphone might have gotten hit. I don't think the audio shouldn't have dipped
What is
too
it?
much.
Rent
Recipe
was
said,
up.
did my audio drop? Shouldn't have.
Good.
Unless
It
I'm
wasn't
just,
me this time.
yeah. I'm like this game sounds cool. The Terror Target Gemini. Like I almost feel like this is something I feel like, except for the hyper violent part, it'd be funny to get Colin to play this because you know how much he loves westerns. But like
Yes.
they went like the inside, like this is reasonable. Like there's still some hard to read parts, but like this is still
Okay.
reasonable in we're getting the feel of the game. This is unreasonable. Like I don't know what's being written here.
We went like from instructional to comic book in one page.
Yeah, but it's also like big and like it even changes font in the page.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's
Like honestly, I'm getting Stinky Cheese Man vibes off of this. Some of the text, the way it was.
the way it's all positioned in it.
Yeah.
Man.
So like this is supposed to be Avenger. Like here's the like we go back to, you know, more
Normal stats and
reasonable
yeah.
when they talk about the character sheet, and then when you flip.
Oh, it's slick. It's a cool book. They spelled rules with a Z.
Oh yeah, and then that goes right back to like colorful and wacky again. Stahlkorper Mark II. It's a like that armor's like the artwork is amazing, but like I'm just like my eyes kind of hurt. Yeah, like there's some cool ideas here. I just think that I blame Morkborg. I've heard stuff about Morkborg. I need to try it. And in fact, somebody messaged me on Twitter and was responding to a lot of my posts and was like, "Oh, when I talked about like that we had tried Dungeon Call Classics, like, oh, you should try Morkborg. It seems like it'd be up your alley." So I'm gonna probably try and see if I can get a game of it or check it out at Gen Con. I've heard it's supposed to be like a real metal kind of like RPG.
So the very first, so Googled Morkborg. First thing is obviously morkborg.com. The next thing is Reddit, and the like highlighted main post it shows. Morkborg is a 5 out of 10 game with a 10 out of 10 community.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Rusted Beetle's already like done with this and wants my GW rant. All right, I'll flip a little bit faster through these. I was trying to get like detailed in here, but because the main purpose is if you're like
Speed round. Yeah.
if you're like Rusted Beetle, my whole point in some of this is like to showcase all this stuff. So if you're like Rusted Beetle and your show didn't have any, or your store didn't have any of this, now you know some of the stuff that's out there. And like I said, a lot of the PDFs are probably for free. So next you've got Tales of the Valiant, Cobalt Press, who I'm pretty sure is coming on the show. They've got they've got an introductory adventure for their Tales of the Valiant, which I think just launched. I think they released finally last year or last month. So Shards of the Spell Forge. So obviously 5e, Tales of the Valiant, in case you're not familiar. We talked about it here. Cobalt Press basically like, well, we're going to do our own 5e, but with hookers and booze. And decided to just basically we're gonna rub all the copyright stuff off of 5e, make a few minor tweaks, and then publish our own 5e, and that was Tales of the Valiant, which sucks because the code name for it was like Operation Black Flag, and that would have been a much cooler RPG name.
Yes.
Tales of the Valiant sounds like the most bland RPG ever.
Oh, I mean, it's. I'm automatically getting visions of like, just paladins. That's it.
Yeah. Of course, Renegade Game Studios had to do one for all their licensed properties. So here you got G.I. Joe, Transformers, Power Rangers, and My Little Pony all together in one little. So you can, because all the game systems are the same. So this is it's Unnatural Disaster, and it's a single adventure where you can get started with any heroes from any of those games. And the cover's got like people from all 4 of the properties on it as well.
I love it.
I love it. I just wish Essence 20 was a better system.
Hmm.
I did not like. I reviewed the Transformers one. Did not like it. It was just one of those like we're coming up with random mechanics just so we can.
Just to have a
Yeah. Red Raven Games, who they are fancy. They do. I didn't realize they had RPG stuff. They do a lot of. They do a lot of board games where he does like the art, the design, everything. I don't. You probably don't remember, but the first Dirtbags Invitational we had in Virginia, we played a game called Islebound. That was from Red Raven Games. It was like there was like different islands on it, and it was like a sailing kind of where you try to get different points. I don't remember much about the game.
No, that wasn't the one where your ship there was like magnets in the board.
No, not that one.
It's not that one. Okay.
No, if I brought up pictures, you might remember it, but it was kind of like, it was one of those games that was just kind of not very memorable in my opinion. That's why I ended up getting rid of it. But
yeah, it happens.
So they've got apparently a RPG, Arzium. I'm trying to see, does it use any? It doesn't say, so I'm assuming it probably uses its own system. Arzium role-playing game opens up the world of Arzium, a vast land filled with mysteries, magic, and forgotten technology. Create characters and stories from numerous folk, occupations, and abilities, then gather a group of friends or foes to make your own adventure. Starting adventure. Oh, this quick start guide includes basic rules, pre-made characters, and a starting adventure in the caves of above and below. So this kind of like ties back to the board game, like Above and Below, which was like a very storytelling board game. And I feel like I think this is sort of a crossover. So if you really like Ryan Lockett and the Above and Below, Near and Far, those kind of games, then apparently there's RPG for it too. And of course he does like great artwork. Shadow Scar, Eyes in the Darkness. This is we talked about it on the show, but this is the new kind of game from the guy that made Cyberpunk, R. Talsorian Games, where it's it's a tabletop role-playing game inspired by Japanese mythology, the legends of ninja anime like Full Metal Alchemist, and stories of secret agents like Men in Black. So the Jumpstart kit comes August 2024, so this is like a little preview of everything you need. These are all the rules. So this is like I would imagine this is almost like everything that would come in like a like the pamphlet that would come in a starter set is what I'm seeing here. Of like, here's all the rules, here's the mission. So, yeah, like the first half is the rules. All right. Then there's the Starfinder, the obligatory Paizo's got the Starfinder, second edition. You know, they have adventure for that. I'm not even going to go into that. You know what Starfinder is. Going along with it, I'm going to skip ahead and show there was a Pathfinder one as well. The Great Toy Heist, which is funny because they used to have like a theme about like goblins, but now it's like very fairy tale theme. Like there's the picture of a bunny with a sword attacking a succubus.
Okay.
And then the back has a stuffed demon dog that's got like stitches and stuff. This is like if Chucky was a cute stuffed dog. That's what this dog reminds me of. Also from Renegade, we have Red Tundra, Werewolf the Apocalypse, your World of Darkness stuff. So again, learn to play World of Darkness there. Plague Bearer, which was originally supposed to be like, or maybe it's different. There was the Zombicide Chronicles, which was like the Zombicide RPG, and I guess they decided for the Zombicide Black Plagues, those fantasy set, they were going to make their own, just a different themed version of it called Plague Bearer Dark Fantasy Role Playing. So it's got the Zombicide Chronicles thing down here, so I think it uses that same set or same set of rules kind of thing. I don't know. That seems kind of weird. Honestly, they really should have leaned in on this version anyways, because this is kind of like a modern day zombie RPG we don't need. We've got tons of those. But like a fantasy zombie themed RPG, I'm sure there's probably a ton of those too, but this just looks a lot cooler, in my opinion. I'm also biased because I have Zombicide Black Plague. So there's that. Dragonbane, which will be reviewed at some point coming up. But Dragonbane, a lot of people have been getting into that from Free League Press. There's a sinking tower that's adventure in here that's also got rules and quick start, kind of how to play stuff. And then the last one, I don't know how I feel about this. RuneScape Kingdoms. Remember that? That they were doing the RuneScape stuff.
Vaguely.
There was like a board game, and then they were gonna make an RPG. But like, all right, I'm gonna cover up the RuneScape thing. What about this screams RuneScape to you? Like I know you can't see. There you go. Now
I got like, we got a dude standing
like
with a sword.
It's it's fantasy. Clearly, that must be RuneScape.
Exactly.
So, Steamforge Games, and it's got the Jagex logo at the bottom. But like, I know RuneScape did the like updated graphics a while back.
Well, hang on. Does that guy have long hair? Is it Carl Urban?
I can't tell. He's got a hood.
Oh, he's got a hood? Okay.
Yeah.
It could be Carl Urban with long hair, so it's got to be fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, there's some cool artwork in this. I'm just like, maybe there's a second subculture of RuneScape. Like there's our RuneScape kind of culture of people that grew up with the original game, and then there's like the new age, because I know they updated the graphics for RuneScape, and maybe that's what this is like appeasing to. But like nothing in this screen. Also, I don't remember enough about RuneScape to know like, oh, I want to play in that world. So,
yeah,
there you go. They even have it here. There you go. Oh, they call it RuneScape Old School. There's RuneScape, which has got the big fancy logo that looks like on the front, and then there's the old school RuneScape logo that says RuneScape Old School. So, where's my old school RuneScape RPG? So, a lot of great stuff. There's a couple of those I'm actually going to do some more. I'm actually going to do some more reading on. And then other Phil just hopped in for Outback, so it must be on his break. He hopped in just in time to hear me rant about 40K. Okay. I feel like I have to start this off by I have to admit a few things, and I have to establish some baselines here. So,
Okay, well, first off, I'd like to mention this is not a safe space, so you will be roasted.
Oh, this is the internet. This is totally not a safe space. So first of all, the first thing I will admit is that everything I'm about to say, somebody else has already said. Like, none of these opinions are new. These are all things that other people have said many times before. So nothing you're going to hear here is really mind-boggling. You're going to be like, oh, Chris finally caught up with the rest of the world. All right. So next thing. For a long time, so something they started with 9th edition 40K, and they continued with 10th. But 10th, they started setting a schedule where it was like, okay, every 3 months, we're going, or, every 6 months, we're going to change the point values. And every 3 months, or every 6 months, we're going to have a balanced data slate where we shift some of the rules around and like update factions. And then they would offset them. So every 3 months, that's why I kept saying 3 months accidentally. Every 3 months, you'd have something. So it'd be like 3 months, you have a points update. 3 months, you have a data slate. 3 months, you have a points update. 3 months, you have a data slate.
Gotcha.
The problem is that 40K 10th edition was bad right out of the gate, and so they had to do a bunch of data slates and points updates in a row. So yeah, gets out my GW rant bingo card. I'm sure you could find one, and I'm gonna check like every box here. I'm hitting every box here. So a lot of people, I've even had the argument with people before. They're like, I don't like this whole concept of a balanced data slate where it's like every 6 months the rules are going to change. And I had defended the concept many times before, saying like, I get it. Like, I understand the reason for having it. And the reason for having it is for competitive players. If you're going to have a competitive thing, you have to shake up the meta every now and then, or else the game gets stale. Like, if they had not changed anything when the game first came out and it just stayed crappy, like, we'd only ever see people playing the Eldari, because they were just super overpowered. Everyone would only buy those figures. You'd only see, like, Eldar versus Eldar lists. It gets super boring. Yes, I'm about to go full duck here. There's the basically get off my lawn old man in our gaming group is Doug. So, and I've had this argument with him before. Like, you have to shake up the meta in a competitive game, or the game gets stale and then people drop off, because it's like, why would I play in a tournament? I already know what's going to happen. I'm going to play either I play the game-winning army and just have a bunch of games where I'm playing up against the exact same army, which is no fun, or I play off meta and I just get stomped by whatever's really powerful. So, I mean, and you see this all the time, like, Magic they do rotation, where it's, they never let the cards settle. You have to, like, constantly shuffle in, new stuff comes in, old stuff comes out. Like, and people say, they hate that because you always have to buy stuff. And there is a capitalist part of that, where, like, they're doing it so you have to keep buying cards to stay competitive.
Exactly.
There's that. But there's also a competitive piece to it, is that you have to keep things moving so that you're constantly getting new approaches to the game. So the metagame is always shifting. That's the kind of thing. Because, like, if you look at Modern or, like, Commander, where, like, this is where, otherwise you get the thing, like, Philip, you talked about online, like, you see the Magic things where it's like, oh, you take this card, and suddenly you're in an infinite loop where you just win the game. That's what you would have all the time with Magic if you never did a rotation. That's why you have a rotation, is so that, like, oh, this card is OP. Well, it's about to leave, so we're going to, the way we keep everybody from only using that card is we just remove the card from the game. That's why you have ban lists. It's the entire point of a ban list, Like, we talked about, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has some card for a ban list. It's because otherwise you would only see the same half. You're a metagame. Yeah, I am a metagame. My metagame's about to be shifting up, dang it. So, all right, so we've acknowledged that the meta has to, to keep a competitive game in a long term, you have to shift up the metagame. And so the way that GW has done this is every 6 months they come out with the balanced data slate. And that is, I'm going to try and pull it up here. And that is just like a series of rules of like, here's all the changes to the game. And what it does is a lot of times they look, apparently, the way that they phrase it is they take a look at like what armies are doing good in the game, what armies are doing bad in the game. Okay, we're going to tweak some of the stuff from the armies doing good, like maybe this ability that people are using all the time. We're going to shift it so they can use it like once a turn. That kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll give this low-performing army a new ability that's kind of in range, like still kind of thematic, but it's a new ability to kind of like give it some, you know, to kind of give it a more winning stuff. So first of all, we'll just say, you want to talk about like bad graphic design here. Here we go. This is like what the balanced data slate looks like.
3 columns?
No, 3 columns, all in red, and it just keeps going and going and going. So like there'll be stat line changes. It's broken out by faction. So, and then there's bits that are red. But here's the horrible part. You would think, Philip, if I showed you this and I said, okay, there's text in here that's red, there's text that's not in red. What would you think that the red text meant?
Red should be your changes.
Yes, and you're halfway right.
Okay.
It is changes. But red just means changes from the baseline 40K, not changes since the last data slate.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Existing passages of rules text. So red is basically any rules text that is changed from a published book.
Okay.
So other data slates that were changes, and I could be, like, another caveat here, I could be completely wrong. But the way I read this is it's just like, because I've seen changes in here that were in the previous data slate, but because there's not a published book that has that change in it, they still left it as red. And that's so annoying, because like, what is actually new? I feel like there needs to be a third color in here. Like green is a previous. This was introduced previously. Red is what is actually changed. So, by the way, here's the first part of this rant, and that is that this shit is too. We're gonna get some cusses in here. This is too fucking complicated. It's too fucking complicated because, all right. Think about if you're playing 40K, you've bought the core rulebook, you've bought the codex for your army, you may have even bought the data cards that have got all of that. So you need all of that to play, right? Well, need is a strong word. The core rules are technically online for free. However, in addition to all of that, you now need the balanced data slate, which is, you know, standard. That's not different for 10th edition at all. And the thing you also need is you need the Munitorium Field Manual. The Munitorial Field Manual is your updated points costs, you know, because what was written in the book is no longer valid, which I don't even know why they put points in the book. They change them like almost immediately. And here's the other thing is, so in the balanced data slate, there's a section here called core rules.
Okay.
And you would think, oh, these are the sections of the rules that have changed. This isn't even all the changes to the core rules. There is another document that's called revised core rules that has all the other changes. That's not even listed on the website. Like, here's the Warhammer community article that's like, here's all the new data slate stuff, and here's where we're going through the change. Like, there are changes in, like, here, for instance, here, they talk about stratagems. Tank shock was supposed to represent blah, 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 blah. And now it's going to represent blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? Tank shock's not listed in here as being changed. Because in order to find it, you have to go to the core rules revised update, which is another PDF, where they have that stuff at. So I'm sitting there talking with my friends and stuff about like all these changes, and people are saying like, well, now this has changed and that has changed, and I'm like, I didn't see any of that on the balanced data slate, and that's like, oh, because you have to go to this other document, and I'm just like, like, I really tried. I was with you. Like, remember I said we got to keep the data, we got to keep the meta shifting. This is not how you do it. Like, how hard is it to edit a PDF? Like they've already taken like, so I've got this Leviathan rulebook here, right?
So I am 100% I am 100% certain that if I opened a PDF on my computer right now, I could filter through all the menus and find out how to edit it.
Yeah.
But off the 100, like, ask me how to do. I have no idea how to do it at this exact second.
Fair.
I couldn't walk you through it. I could figure it out. Give me
So
10 minutes.
I don't want to reach for it right now, but back there's my Leviathan core rulebook, and there's a section in there that's core rules, and it's funny because it's even the page numbers are numbered differently because like it'll be like page 100, and then it starts page 1 of the core rules, and then picks up again after the core rules section is done. And it sounds funny and weird, but that's because that's a separate PDF that you can get for free off of Games Workshop's website. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I get it. It's just we took that, like, we made this as a small, we made this as like a book within a book so that you can, it's not different between the printed and the PDF, right?
Okay.
You with me so far?
Yep.
How hard would it be to just take this and incorporate it into that?
Mm-hmm.
You could have like the revised core rules update. You could just change the core rules PDF, and you could have it be like the new text is in red. You know, new text is in red, and then the balanced data slate you could have as an appendix at the end of the core rules. That's just like, oh, by the way, here's the faction specific stuff that you need. So you've got one PDF that's got all your rules, and it's constantly updated. That can't be that hard. And in fact, I almost guarantee somebody will do it for them. Somebody will go in and combine all this stuff together so that it's all in one place. I imagine the yarn on the wall of photos meme with the caption of 40K player before they roll for the shoot phase. Like, you know, there's stuff on here that like they change because, you know, a certain strategy is getting overused. Like there's this says like modifying a strategy on CP cost. There's a unit, the captains for Space Marines, they have an ability where certain strats they can be used for free once per game, even if it's already been used. They changed it to say it's not free anymore, it's just -1. So if it's a 2 CP strat, it's now a 1 CP strat. I know for most of the people listening to this, they probably have no idea what I'm talking to. But anyways, it's just like, I consider that a small ruse tweak. Kind of sucks because that was kind of like one of the main reasons to take a captain. I know people will argue with me and be like, it's only -1, and now you can use any strat instead of battle strats, blah, 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 blah. So, and then you get into the rules-specific stuff like, okay, well, now we've added stuff to specific units to kind of buff them up. But then, like, I don't know, there's just like a bunch of... There's a bunch of tweaks to where there's so much, like this is almost like 10th and a half edition. Like we've modified so many of the rules that like I feel like I have to learn the game all over again, and not in a way of like whenever a new balanced data slate was like, oh, okay, well here's the big impacts to the game, which is really small, like 1 or 2 small tweaks, and then here's the tiny pieces that are, you know, particular to my army. And I just have to learn those 2-3 things and done. This almost feels like I got to learn to play the entire game over again. And I don't know if I have that in me.
Oh.
And yes, Phil, that was other Phil. That was where I was going for. And the funny part is prior to this data slate, a lot of people would argue that 40K was actually relatively balanced. Like it was in the best shape of the game that it had been in. Because the game was pretty rough to start out with, everything was very unbalanced and things. And now you're getting and the flip side of this is there's been a lot of rumors online that we've been seeing new codexes come out that are taking armies and making them worse. And just completely changing up how they work because they were designed over a year ago to how the meta was a year ago, and now the meta is no longer like that. And so, like, say an army was, or like for instance, say an army was good, and like, okay, we need to scale this back with the codex. Well, they changed it with the data slate so that army's not as good, and then they get hit with the codex, so now they're even worse. So, yeah, so I'd already been kind of feeling kind of on 40K.
Okay.
And not anything due to the game. It may be just the community here. I mean, the fact that our store closed was a big hit.
Yeah.
Because like people have just not been getting together to play 40K. Aside from like you get a text chain or that's just like, hey, somebody want to play 40K this weekend? You're like, yeah, me. So there's that. But in general, I feel like the game, or at least a lot of people around here, are all focused on competitive 40K, and I don't like it. I've never been interested in competitive 40K. I went to a tournament, but I only went to a tournament because a lot of other people I knew were going to it, and I thought it'd be fun. And it was fun. It was fun hanging out with those guys, and that was the only reason I went. Like, I was never going to sign up. I never had the intentions of signing up for a grand tournament. Like, I go to Nova and go, like, the few times I played in the 40K events at Nova have been, like, narrative things.
Okay, yeah.
Like, that's the stuff I want to play, is the narrative stuff. Well, everyone's kind of got, like, their reasons they don't want to play 40K narrative. And I get it. Okay, whatever. But, like, I played Horus Heresy for the first time in, like, a year, a week or two ago. And it was, like, such a breath of fresh air. Because, like, first of all, getting these minis that I've been repainting, because remember, I stripped everything and repainted it as Ultramarines. So I'm getting some of those minis now fresh to the table off of some new paint jobs. So that's always really nice. But then Heresy has this thing, but because it's not designed to be a competitive game. Like, Heresy, the only reason you play Heresy is just to have fun and to remake, like, battles that you've read in the books. Like, it's kind of designed to be that narrative style game-ish. Yeah. So the way that the game is, you can kind of bring anything to the game. Like, oh, I like tanks. Okay, I'm going to make a list full of tanks. I like the ships and the flyers. Okay, I'm going to bring a list full of flyers. There's a list that's all dreadnoughts. That's like the only thing that everyone agrees is bad. There's an all dreadnought list, and dreadnoughts are kind of overpowered in Heresy. So like there's like one big house rule that most players throw on organized events, and they say, okay, if you're playing it, you can't run that Rite of War that allows you to bring only dreadnoughts because it's overpowered, and you're basically going to stomp everybody, and nobody's going to have fun.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then they say, like, the other thing is, it's like you're allowed to bring one dreadnought per every 1,000 points of stuff you have. That's pretty much that's like the only meta in Heresy. Is just don't do that, and that's only so you're not that guy. But like I was playing and I brought an all tanks list, and I was playing against a guy who had brought he was running some mixed legion stuff. So he had one legion, his Blood Angels, and then he also had I forgot what the other legion he had running. But he was running some mixed legion stuff because there's a couple of rules in there for like mixing up legions, because sometimes you had I want to run dreadnoughts. You know, Phil, I want to run an event. The only time I would ever allow an all dreadnought list is I want to run like an oops all dreadnoughts event where it's the only way you play is everyone runs that Rite of War, the Fury of the Ancients, that allows you to bring dreadnoughts. So it's just all right. The only way we're going to do dreadnoughts is everybody's bringing dreadnoughts. I just need more dreads before that can happen. Because my 40k dreads don't work in Heresy anymore, or my 40k dreads aren't in Heresy. So, but you know, he was but in the game I was running, he was running kind of like a modified stuff, because there's rules in here for like Shattered Legions, because a lot of times in the Heresy there was like after the big battle of Isfahan 5, a lot of the legions got like hacked and slashed, so it was just like, well, most of my legion's gone, and I want to kill heretics, you want to kill heretics, so we're now a squad, even though you're from a different legion now, and so all 6 of us got on. All 6 of us managed to get on the only ship that didn't get shot down. And we're gonna go. You know, we're gonna go do wreck house. That happened a ton in the Heresy. So there's rules for that. You know, like we were playing a game, and I'm running all tanks because that's pretty much what I have, because I bought a lot of tanks. And he was running kind of his mixed legion thing, and we get set up. And we're playing a game that does have objectives, but it wasn't like sit and hold objectives like you would in 40k. It was, okay, if you hold this objective at the end of your turn, you burn it, and it's no longer an objective, and whoever burned the most objectives wins the game. And first turn rolls around, and I am rocking face. Like, I am just like, tanks are just like blowing his guys out of the water. Like, I'm erasing units from the board. Like, I'm getting a good feeling about this. By the time we get to turn 2, with the flaw that was already in my list becomes greatly apparent. Even though I already knew it was going to be a problem, but it becomes even more of a problem. And that is, to hold an objective, you need to have the keyword line, which is like your basic troop. And
Okay.
because my list is mostly tanks, I only have 2 of those units.
Ah.
So it means that those 2 units have to like jump around the board to try and get to the points, whereas most of his army is, or you know, he's got a lot of line units, but he also has some other stuff to support it. So he can just scatter to all the points. He ended up winning the game.
Okay.
But like, yeah, it was just like so much more fun. And it was also just like, the game is more complicated in the sense that it's based on an older rule set. It's not simple or simplified as they say for like 40k. There's a lot of like rules and remembering keywords that actually got a little bit easier because they started reusing some of those keywords. But then like, just trying to like, there was so much of this like, oh wait, what is it? Does that mean this or does that mean this? Kind of situations. Like, there was a lot of learning, but it was still like way more fun than I've had in a 40k game in a while. Like, I've had fun playing, but I've only had fun playing against certain people.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know. Am I done playing 40k? Probably not. I've got too much money involved in I've got too much money involved in the game, but I don't know. There's some things like I was showing off this. I bought Stargrave, which is it's a minis agnostic game, or at least they make their own minis, but they're also like, you can use whatever minis you have. And I've been seeing, like, we've been talking about this, like the Majestic 13, where like it's like, oh, let's use the Power Ranger minis for those kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is designed to be a campaign game. Like, the rules are very simple. If you've played D&D, this is basically a minis game based on D&D rules. Like, you roll a d20, if you roll above the target number, you hit, you know? That's kind of like the fundamental rules in here. You know, when you go to attack opponent, you roll a d20, add your modifiers, they roll a d20, add their modifiers, whoever rolled highest, that's who won. But because the rules are so generic and simplified, and they also have Frostgrave, which is the fantasy version of this, I can take my 40k Marines and just make a 40k squad in this. It's not going to be like, they're not going to be like super powered and OP or whatever. You know, they're going to be like fragile and like die in a hit or something like that, like any other generic, you know, guy. Like, Meaning, what I mean by that is like if I put a Terminator on the board versus like you put your little guard figure. In Stargrave, they have the same stat line.
Okay.
They just might have, if they're a specialist versus a soldier versus a mystic, they may have just like a special ability. Or if you keep playing, they may have gotten upgrades. But what it means is like I could just take my boys that I've painted that I love. GW makes great looking Marines. That's like the one thing that they've got down. And the rules are just really to sell Marines, but to sell minis. So like I could just play Stargrave with I just play 40k with Stargrave rules and use minis that maybe aren't in the meta for 40k. And also I think there's solo play rules for Stargrave. So like I'm looking at all these like mini agnostic. This is the part I'm saying that like everyone's going to be like, Chris, these things have existed forever. Like literally Stargrave has been out forever, you know. It's just I guess I'm at the point now where I'm open and open to playing those kind of games where I have so many minis now. And this is even before I bought like into 40k. Like I've for instance, when we were playing D&D and I brought those 2 boxes of Zombicide minis cuz it's like, well, I want to do, you know, kind of on the board kind of minis style gameplay. Everybody made their own custom mini. Here's 2 boxes full of minis that I've already painted. Yeah, they're all like zombie themed, but there's a bunch of heroes and stuff in there too. So I could pull out like an archer or, you know, like a paladin looking thing. But now it's like, so there's the people that made so Adam and Vince that we had on the show last year at Nova. They made that Majestic 13 game. They've got a new game called Death Wizards, but it's spelled DETH Wizards, and it's a game of like you play a necromancer, and I'm like, oh, I could just go grab my Zombicide minis and play that, or you know, so many other games. Or if I need a monster if I need a monster for Stargrave, I could just use those zombies. That's the only thing is because I have mostly Marines, I don't really have monsters, at least in 40k style plastic.
Yeah.
I'd have to go buy a bunch of Tyranid stuff, which I'm not going to. That's where I was talking before. I was talking before the show. The new the new Age of Sigmar box is coming out for Fantasy Warhammer, and there's 2 armies in it. There's the Stormcast Eternals, which are basically fantasy space marines, and then there's the Skaven, which are like the rat people.
Gotcha.
If you've played any of the Warhammer themed video games, the fantasy ones, you've probably seen Skaven before.
Seen this game, yeah.
Yeah, but
you know that was actually going to be my question a little bit ago. You were like, I'm getting tired of 40k. I was like, does that mean you're going to jump over to Age of Sigmar?
No, just because there's some quirks with Age of Sigmar that I don't like. And that would also mean like all the money that I've spent on this, I'd have to spend again to get an Age of Sigmar army up. Oh, I had Tyranids. I traded them for more Marines. Yes, you're right. But I was like, maybe I'll just have to get like half of a Skaven box. Maybe like when people are discounting this, when they've overstocked and are trying to clearance this out in like a year, I'll just need to buy like the Age of Sigmar box to get the Skaven and paint those up, so I have like more monsters. But like, yeah, I think fundamentally if I'm gonna play Warhammer, I'm gonna play Heresy.
Gotcha.
If I'm gonna play with my Warhammer figures, though, I may like Stargrave has settings where you could play, you could be, because terrain is everything in Stargrave. Because it's like if you get hit, you're probably gonna die.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I could. Yes, Phil, I know I have your vampire army, but it's beside the point. Anyways, there's other things I don't necessarily like about Age of Sigmar. What was I talking about? Oh, Stargrave. I have that boarding actions terrain that I bought that's like the Space Hulk kind of spaceship walls and stuff. I used them in Necromunda as well. Or Necromunda's a great example of I bought a bunch of terrain for Necromunda. So I could just build these boards and stuff and then use these spaceship walls for Stargrave. and it's reused and stuff. Because like I bought it for boarding actions, and then turns out when you lock a type of gameplay behind $200 worth of terrain, nobody buys it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a. I wonder why no one's buying it, Chris. That's
Yeah. Like I had some people that bought it, and so, or I may that might be my approach to playing. If I play 40K, I might play boarding actions 40K, where it's like, look, I'm going to set up this board. I'm going to get the my Arc of Omens books out, where it's like, here's the mission. We're just going to play that, where it's 500 points. You pick stuff, I pick stuff. You can't pick vehicles because we're in a spaceship.
Yeah.
And have fun. Because now I'm thinking ahead.
Well, hang on. How big of a spaceship are you in?
I mean, like, this is the corridors of a spaceship.
Okay. I mean, we can make the corridors wider.
Fair. And
you give me a big enough tank, I'll make off.
So, have you heard of Space Hulk before?
I have, yes.
Okay, so the whole what Space Hulk is, effectively, is in the warp. You have like ships that get lost in the warp, where like they have breaches in their shields, and like demons come in and just kill everybody on board. So there's just like vessels floating in the warp, just drifting. And a lot of times those ships will collide and fuse because it's the warp and reality twists. And then occasionally they just they hit a crack in the warp and they just get ejected out into
real space.
Into real space. And so you just have these mangled masses of ships that just get kind of clobbered together, and that's considered a Space Hulk.
Okay.
So, yeah, other film mentions Kill Team. Yeah, I might try some Kill Team, but that's also, you get, like, my only problem with Kill Team is you get really restricted on what units, because, like, it's like, oh, you can only use these 5 figures. Like, if you want to play Space Marines, you only can use this setup. Whereas with, like, boarding actions, I can tweak it. Like, sure, 500 points, I can only use certain things, but it's like, well, if I want to run Terminators, I can. If I want to run my Infernus Marines, I can. If I want to use my Aggressors, I can. I can't really use any of those units in Kill Team. So, maybe the answer is I need to run a boarding actions crusade, because that's what the narrative 40K is a crusade. That's the answer. Okay. That's what we came to. That's what we've worked it out. We're gonna do I'm gonna do a boarding actions crusade.
Nice.
I think that's Metroid 40K. There you go. That's exactly what it is. But there you go. You wanted a rant. I think I gave you one.
We got a rant, folks. That's been our show.
There you
go. We want to thank everyone for hanging out in the chat. Thanks to everyone showing up in chat. No matter where you are, thanks for listening to us. Check out boardsandswords.com/live. That's got the link to get you to where you get to view us. And then just check out boardsandswords.com for all the stuff we've done in the past. Chris got like tweets and blogs and stuff clogging up that whole page up there. It's great stuff. Also, take it over, Chris.
Okay, I was like, where are you going with this? Also, keep in mind those in the chat. Stick around. We're going to talk some bonus bit stuff live. But send us feedback. I know this week might be a letdown. If you don't play RPGs and you don't play 40K, you probably are like, what was the point? But I had to make do when you have your guest drop out at like the last moment. So it was either this or no show. So hopefully somebody found it entertaining. If you did, let us know. Feedback at boardsandswords.com, Facebook at boardsandswordspod, or I'm on Twitter at boardsandswords. In the meantime, boardsandswords.com for links to everything like our Patreon. Check it out to help support the show. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We've actually got a guest for this one. It's going to be, I think it's the guys from Level 99 Games. So people that make Millennium Blades, they're going to be on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got them on the show. So in the meantime, remember, every gamer has a story, and this one's going to change in 3 weeks.